All right, the NBA season's going to start soon. I think my most pressing matter, other than the Hurricanes, is the fact that I would say my Mets, but I will say our Mets, since we are being joined by Konata Edwards at Nada the Scribe on Twitter from CBSSports.com. We'll talk about them. Our Mets are one win away from advancing in the playoffs for the second straight round. We will get to that. We always kind of mention it at the end. But it'll be a more featured part of the conversation. But with my friend Nada, can we start with the Charlotte Hornets? I would like to say new look Charlotte Hornets, but are they? They have a new coach, but are they a new look?
Well, it depends on what you consider new look. If you consider actually playing defense and trying an effort, new look, then absolutely, they are new look.
Wow.
Like, this is a completely different team. This is a team so far, now granted, it's only 2 games, but they look like they pay attention to detail. They look like they care about the defensive end. They look better in the offensive end. There are a lot of out-of-time-out sets that you didn't see under Steve Clifford and maybe a little bit under James Borrego. There's a little bit of offensive creativity. It's different. Like, there's a completely different vibe to that building to where, like, before you could say Hornets DNA was basically loser DNA.
Right.
Now they're trying to – now I'm not going to say they're completely winners or they're going to be top 4 in the East or anything else like that, but they're frisky and they're competitive, and that's something that you couldn't say for this team for at least in the last 3 years.
All right, so I want to dig into some of the things on the roster that are intriguing to me. First of all, let's just start at the very top.
Mm-hmm.
They're as good as LaMelo Ball, correct?
Yes, they are.
That's it.
Yes, they are.
How do we expect him to stay healthy and all season long?
Well, he's actually taking his health serious, because the one big thing for Media Day was, at least the craziest part for me was that he finally started doing the ankle braces. Steph Curry has these ankle braces. There are a lot of people that wear this ankle tape now that protect their ankles, and for the longest time, LaMelo Ball didn't want to do it.
Right.
This was the first year where he actually addressed it. He said, you know what, I feel comfortable in it. Most likely, I'm going to play with it. And honestly, when you start looking at what he can do, how important he is to the entire operation, the ankles were the only thing that were really, really, really bugging him. If he can get that ankle support anywhere close to where he plays 50, 60, maybe even 70 games, he plays that many, this team is going to be in the mix for a playing spot. They're only as good as they go as far as they go. And if you saw last night, his body looks like he's been in the best shape. He's coming to the season in the best shape since possibly he was a rookie. Like, he looked fresh. He looked in tune. He looked on the defensive end like he cared. The attention to detail, the competitive joy, as Coach Charles Lee said, like, it's back. And if he's going to play that way, this team is actually going to be exciting. I'm not promising a playoff spot or anything else like that, but they're going to be interesting. They're going to be worth your time to watch every night.
All right. The importance of Mark Williams is what?
It's paramount. I think Mark Williams' health, if they play along with LaMelo Ball, he might be the second most important player, because he's going to be responsible for their defense and their rebounding. Now, granted, there are some issues that he has with rebounds where guys bigger, stronger will push him underneath the rim, and that's a problem when it comes to your big doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's anywhere close to healthy, he plays 50, 60 games, this team is going to be exciting. Again, Nick Richards, great backup center, great guy that can play 10, 15 minutes. He's not a starter. The Hornets need a starting caliber big man. Mark Williams is it. It's just he's got to play enough games to actually impact wins and losses.
All right, I'm gonna move on from the Hornets in a minute, and I'm going to consider Brandon Miller a given here, because I think Miller showed last year that he was absolutely the truth. He's going to be a great player in this league, I think. But I want to get to the bench, and I think this is, to me, maybe the most important part of what the Hornets could be about. The likes of, I don't know how many of these guys they're planning on keeping or moving at the deadline, because I think there's value on their bench. But Grant Williams, Seth Curry, even Taj Gibson. and I'll ask you about one more player in a second, but those three players specifically, am I overrating their importance to this team?
No, you need this team. Like, me and you have had enough conversations about the Hornets to where my biggest clamoring for the Hornets for a long time was to get actual grown-ups that knew their jobs.
Right.
The biggest thing about this Hornets team was that they were young and inexperienced, and they didn't know exactly how to get better. They do now because Grant Williams is there. They do now because Seth Curry is there. They do now because Taj Gibson. And Taj Gibson signing there is not an insignificant signing, because normally vets on the end of their career usually try to avoid this place. The fact that Taj Gibson actually signed up and decided, you know what, I'm going to be a guy that's going to go help out Charles Lee and help out these rookies, is going to pay dividends for a guy like Tajon Salon, a guy like Nick Smith Jr., a guy like Trey Mann, who's also taken the bull by the horns and just gone so far with it so far in the preseason. Like, those guys need that kind of vet guidance that Taj gives them right now.
All right, one more player for the Hornets, and we'll move on very quickly to the Knicks. Harry Giles, is this just like last chance saloon, local kid, gonna give him one chance to make a splash? I mean, if he's healthy, I don't even know, because we haven't seen healthy Harry Giles in how long? 8 years?
We've never seen it. Like, you've never seen it in college and or in the pros. He's never been healthy. So Harry Giles, like, the sad part to it is it looks like this is closer to the end. This does look a lot like Last Chance Saloon. My hope is because he's such a good guy that you see him in Greensboro, that he gets more of a chance to rehab his career in a place like the Greensboro Swarm. And then if there's a big man need, but at this point, I would say of the four big men that are on the roster right now, he's number 4. And that's most likely not going to mean a roster spot. It's most likely going to mean Greensboro at this point.
Well, I mean, I hope the kid gets a chance to I hope he's physically capable of playing. And then if he ever gets, right physically, and maybe we can see something that resembles clearly what his talent level was before he even got to Duke. We never even saw it at Duke, and that was obviously very sad. All right, to the Knicks. Konata Edwards at Nada the Scribe on Twitter. Why do I hate the trade of Karl-Anthony Towns to the Knicks? I'm not even a strong Knicks fan anymore. I'm sort of a Knicks fan, but not really. I'd rather see them win than not. It's not like I'm a Jets fan. I could care less about the Jets at this point. But I loved the energy and the chemistry that the Knicks had last year, and I would have been fine with it if they didn't include Dante DiVincenzo in the trade, but they did, and now I feel like Karl-Anthony Towns, who I don't see as a chemistry guy, is going to disrupt the chemistry that they had.
It's not even that. Me and you both know. We're veterans of the WFAN callers. We have listened to WFAN long enough to know that dude has like 2 or 3 games where if he doesn't show up, or he looks soft, or he pulls one of those disappearing acts like he did in the Western Conference Finals, the Knicks fans are going to eat that man alive.
It's not going to go well.
It like mentally, like, I do wonder about the mental makeup of a guy like that in New York and whether or not he's going to make it. And I just wonder how many of those headlines about him being disappointed can he actually take before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that is that is so going to be. As I don't even know who their lineup is anymore. Is Joe Beningo still on the air on the Fan in New York?
On occasion.
So Beningo,
he's chairman emeritus at this point, I think.
Beningo's going to rail on Karl-Anthony Towns. Nobody's going to understand what he's saying, but Towns is going to go like 3 of 12 from 3-point range and miss 5 in a row in the fourth quarter, and Beningo's going to lose his mind. Yeah, I didn't like that. I did find it interesting that Jalen Brunson was named, I forget where the survey was done, the 4th best point guard in the NBA behind Luka, SGA, and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I find it interesting, but at the same time, why would you do that to that guy? That kid's already got a chip on his shoulder. You want to give him more?
I look
like you like.
Oh, so you look at that as a chip on his shoulder. That's interesting to me. I would look at it as praise.
No. That dude plays angry. That dude hustles.
I love it.
The last thing you wanted to do is give that guy more motivation to come and beat everybody down on ISO. That's the last thing I would have wanted to do.
Perfect.
I'd have put him 2 and been like, yo, like give him a big head or something like that. But no, 4? Like, even if it's right, and I do agree with it, at the same point, I wouldn't have said it out loud. I wouldn't have put it in a survey or anything.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, maybe he can keep Karl-Anthony Towns' brain in the whole thing. All right, now, since we're running out of time, how do you feel about today? Because we are one. I say we. Yes, I just said we. We are one away from dispatching the Phillies and waiting on, I think, probably the Padres. How you feel about it?
Is it bad that I'm no longer worried about the Phillies and I'm more worried about the Padres right now?
Wow, I would be worried about the Padres for real. They're legit. They're juggernaut.
I kind of worry about Fernando Tatis with a New York stage deciding that he's going to do the Macarena on the way down after a home run. Like, I am completely concerned about that man because when he's focused, when he's right, he's the best player in baseball. Like, it's him and Ohtani, and then like there's a gap, and then there's Judge. But when Fernando Tatis Jr. is right, that dude is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that said, I am very, very happy with where they are. I didn't think they would dispatch the Phillies and exercise the demons. So we are headed towards house money situation. We are headed to where I'm no longer worried. I'm no longer concerned. Whatever happens, happens, and they can't hurt me. I think, and that's, you know what? That's a rare place for where the Mets can be right now.
So
usually they still can hurt me. This time they can't, and I'm completely okay with it.
You and I were talking about this earlier. I can't remember the last time I rooted for the Mets when they exceeded my expectations. This as a franchise, they have always failed to meet.
Like, what, 97? Like 97 in the Kenny Rogers year.
God,
he
walked Andrew Jones on 4 pitches with the bases loaded. I still can't believe that.
You still can't believe that, but you didn't expect that team to go that far.
Well, the team that played in the Subway Series against the Yankees exceeded expectations. I actually just saw a highlight of Benny Agbayani hitting a walk-off home run against the Giants in the LCS that year. Yes, that team exceeded expectations.
That's true.
But in some ways, it also failed to meet expectations initially, and then it kind of all came together. This team, at the beginning of the year, there was nobody who thought. I think if all things go well, they could maybe play 500 baseball. I figured that we'd get to the trade deadline and Alonso would be traded. All those veteran pitchers they signed would be traded for futures. And then we got to the trade deadline, and like, well, we're like one of the best teams in baseball now. Can't do all that stuff we wanted to do. So they just wrote it out. They added a couple of bullpen pieces, and now we are where we are. But they've exhibited a resilience that honestly we haven't seen in almost 40 years. The 86 team was obviously great.
Yeah, 86, yeah.
But you couldn't keep them down.
Yeah. 86, yeah, no, you're right about 86. You're right about 86. But quite literally, it's 86, and that's it. And 86 was that special. The only thing, like, there's so much about this team I end up loving. Like, Pete Alonso, who didn't show up for quite literally August and September, decides he's going to show up in October, which, thank you, Pete. Like, we thank you for all that.
Yeah.
And then Francisco Lindor turning into one of those top 5 players in baseball again.
Yeah.
And being that guy. And because quite honestly, like, you were like the first wild card game, I knew they were going to lose. That's a game they typically lose. And then Lindor's like, nah, we're not going to lose that game. In fact, we're going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like that, like those are the type of games when you talk about that resilience where I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe they're actually going to do it. I do not have any fingernails left. I will admit that. But at the same point, like, it's house money. They're 1 win away from house money, and I'm completely okay with that.
Yeah, well, we'll close on this. I'll just take you into my brain when they were down 2-0 in the top of the ninth inning against the Brewers, and Pete Alonso was up with runners at the corners, and I was positive. I just didn't want him to. Just strike out. Just don't hit into a double play. That's where I was because I just knew what was going to happen. And then he hits that opposite field home run, and I went, "Oh, this is a thing. This is actually a thing that I'm just going to have to live with and enjoy." And at that point, I was calm. Even when he hit the home run, I just shook my head and went, man, this team is something else. We have to go. Konata Edwards, at Not of the Scribe on Twitter. Didn't even get to the Panthers, but maybe that's fitting. You and I will talk again very soon. The hoop season is upon us, my friend. I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.